Okay, this is the test review for Module 7, Part 1, and we're going to look at some quadratics here. So this section is all about, on Part 1, about monomial division and GCF. So when we have a question that has several terms on top divided by a single term, the important thing is that you take each term and divide it by the term on the bottom. So basically you'd split this up into 3 separate questions, which you can see here. And basically you just write each one out. And then while you're trying to simplify this, remember some of the rules that we're going to be using here. So numbers first, letters second, alphabetical order. And also when we're dividing with exponents, we subtract the exponents. So 4 divided by 4 is just 1. A cubed divided by a squared, you subtract the exponents. 3 take away 2 is 1. And if you have exactly the same thing like we have with the b's here, these would cancel out. So I said 1a, so in other words just a. Now this type of question we won't actually get quite on our test because it's the highest exponents on the bottom here for a, which we won't have. But 2 divided by 4 is 1/2, which is why we have a 2 on the bottom here. Technically this is 1 take away 2, which is -1. You'll learn in a later unit that negative exponents move to the bottom, but we don't need to know that for this test. And if there's no exponent, remember it's a 1, so 4 take away 1 gives us 3, that's why we got b cubed. -8 divided by 4 is -2. Subtract the exponents, 5 take away 2 is 3, and that same thing, if there's no exponent it's a 1, so 5 take away 1 is 4. You could be given this question with just 2 terms on the top, or you could be given 3 or possibly even 4 terms, but that basic idea, make sure you take each term on the top and divide it by the expression that's on the bottom, and then use those rules we just talked about. Now for greatest common factor, particularly with numbers, all we're going to do is we're just going to use Desmos to find out what they are. We're not going to do the middle school method to try and work that out. So just type in GCD, make sure it's lowercase. It says GCD here, you can actually use GCF, that seems to work just fine as well. I think originally we didn't think you could use GCF, but you can use GCF, that will be just fine. Type in the 2 numbers with a comma, doesn't matter which way round, and it will tell you that the answer, well, for this question is 6 if you want to try it. And for variables, the GCF is the variable with the lowest exponent. So they put smallest there. I used the word lowest when we were talking about these in class. We also looked at tiles as well. So for things with tiles here, if we look down the side here, I can see I got 1 square, which I would call x. Across the top, I got 1 square, which is 1x, and 1 rectangle, which is 1. And if we're working out area for things like this, you just add the parts in the middle here, not the parts on the outside. But let's take a look at some actual questions here. So if we were actually dividing these, I think there's a little mistake here. I think that's a mistake here. Yeah, it says 7x squared y cubed. I actually typed these parts in because really all we want to do is we want to just work out what the answer is here. So 7 divided by 7 is 1. X squared divided by x, if you subtract the exponents, 2 take away 1 is 1. So I'm just going to put x, I'm not going to put x to the power of 1. And 3 take away 1 is 2, so that would be y squared. And we don't really need the 1 here, so we'll just put xy squared. We know that that means the same thing. And, oops, I'm putting a plus in here. -14 divided by 7 is -2. X divided by x, as they're the same, they cancel. And y divided by y, as they're the same, they would cancel as well. Now, it doesn't like my response, but that might just be because I've actually put spaces in here. Let's see if it's going to let me change my answer. Let me see if deleting some of the spaces here will help. That's the only problem with Desmos. It can be a little bit finicky. There we go. So I did have the correct answer. It just didn't like how I wrote it. Now, for these ones here, there are 3 terms on the top and 1 on the bottom. So we'll split them up. I've put all the terms the same on the bottom here. So I'm not filling in the quotient here. I'm not going to write it here and here and just here. I'm going to save myself some time. So 15 divided by 3 is 5. A cubed divided by a, subtract the exponents. 3 take away 1 is 2. Now to get the squared, and I should have said this on the last one, you can use your Desmos calculator and then just press the squared button, or you can press the power button and you can do it there. I actually use Shift and 6 to do exponents, but that's another way you can do this question. And b to the 4 divided by b is b cubed. So I'm doing Shift and 6. It tells me that's an exponent, and I can type it in. But you can certainly just use these buttons here if that's easier for you to do. Let's move on to the next term here. So 27 divided by 3 is 9. A squared divided by A is A, 2 take away 1, so A to the 1. B squared divided by B, same thing, 2 take away 1 is 1, so that would just be B. And for our last term, negative 3 divided by 3 is negative 1. And A divided by A, as it's the same thing, it cancels. And B divided by B, same thing, it cancels. Now we've got to be careful we don't do that with the 3's. If we cancel the 3's out, we'd have a subtract here and nothing at all. That's why I always work out what the numbers divided by themselves are. So 3 divided by 3 is 1. And it says that one's good. It also liked how I wrote that answer. And number 5, that must be to work on the next slide. So actually, I think I can probably do this without. First of all, it says check the GCD. So, okay, I will go back. Let's check the GCD of negative 9 and 36. And actually, I'm going to put GCF as we talked about. Negative 9, comma, negative 36. And it says that they're both in the 9 times table. What we have to remember is if it does have a negative at the start, we need to put a negative at the front of our question as well while we're actually doing this one. And then we've got to look for the lowest power here. So I see a power 5, and I see a power of 3 here. So the smaller power is the power of 3. And then you divide this by this. So negative 9 divided by negative 9 is 1. N to the 5 divided by n cubed. Subtract those exponents. 5 take away 3 is 2. For this one, negative 36 divided by negative 9 is positive 4. And 3 and n cubed and n cubed, as they're the same, that will cancel out. And that should be good for this question. This one, we actually have 3 terms. We've got 6, negative 3, and 12. So I'm going to go back here, work out what that is. So 6, negative 3, and 12. And of course, they're in the 3 times table. And some of you might realize some of these without needing to do this as well. Starts with positive this time, so I'm going to have a positive 3 as well. X cubed, and x squared. So go for the one with the lowest power. That would be 2. Y squared, y, and y. Oh, clearly, y would be the lowest of those powers. Whoops, don't forget to press that right arrow. Otherwise, you'll do just what I just did there. And then divide each of these answers by this term here. So 6 divided by 3 is 2. 3 take away 2 is 1. So that would be x. 2 take away 1 is 1. So that would be y there. Subtract. 3 divided by 3 is 1. I can put the 1 if I want to. X cubed divided by x squared. 3 take away 2 is 1, so x. And y are the same thing, so they're going to just cancel. And at this point, you might just choose to put minus x rather than minus 1x. 12 divided by 3 is 4, which is positive 4. X squared and x squared are the same, so that cancels. And y are the same, so that cancels too. It doesn't like the 1x here, so I think we're going to have to just put x. And it still says that it's incorrect. Alright, I am going to check my answer. I did not create this, so there might just be a slight mistake here. And I can promise that that answer is absolutely correct. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that answer at all. And that's the video. That's the first section. There is 2 other videos to watch as well, but that certainly shows you how to divide and how to do the GCF.